I'm certified in project management and pretty good at chess, and today I'm going to explain why they're the same thing. And no, I won't tell you to advance your pawn employees. I used 4 frameworks to boost me to the top 3% of chess players, which started popping up everywhere in business, and I'm going to give them to you. So sit back, get comfortable, because I'm going to tell you how a silly game like chess can help you make sense of the corporate world. The frameworks are split up into 2 categories: strategy and tactics, or long-term and short-term. They're develop, advance, convert, and decompose. But before we get to them in detail, we need to map chess definitions to business definitions. First of all, your pieces aren't just the people involved. They're any useful resource, meaning stakeholder relationships, project management systems, and even your knowledge in the area. Your opponent usually isn't a person, but a circumstance, such as properly developing a project. A move is anything that changes the state of a piece, which may happen at every moment, and the game never ends. There is no checkmate. Projects end, of course, but your career could last decades. Okay, now that we're aware of how we can superpose chess on top of business, let's talk about these key frameworks in chess so we can see how they move the corporate world. The first framework is develop. In chess, it's good practice to set up all of your pieces to get value before you start to advance any one piece. Like any framework, there are exceptions, but I'd say this is the case for the wide majority. Well, think about it. Let's imagine a game of chess cinematically. 2 armies are separated by a patch of land. And let's say Army 1 starts by waking up all of their army and encouraging them to walk out of their barracks and pick up their weapon. However, Army 2 wakes up their greatest warrior, gives her their greatest weapon, and sends her out immediately, forgetting about the rest of the army. Well, by the time she makes it over to Army 1, she'll be met with a full army, and if she gets back to her camp, the other soldiers scramble to wake up and help. This is true with chess pieces, by playing many queen moves at the start, and it's the same with business, by focusing on merely one thing, such as technical implementation. Instead, play like Army 1. Of course, develop your most important pieces, but also develop the less obvious or the late game pieces. Because when you want to rely on a piece, or you want a stakeholder to have your back, it's better you already set them up. Okay, well, you set up all of your pieces, you put the project management plan together, and you engage with all of your key stakeholders. They're not all on board, but that's okay. Everything's developed. Now what? Unfortunately and fortunately, chess isn't a game of defense. It's a game of offense and defense. So after you plan the project, you still have to implement it. Here's the framework how. Put your pieces on the opponent's side of the board, and safely. When you do so, you'll feel friction, you'll feel pressure, and as you develop, you may find out you can't deliver something you expected to deliver. Maybe the stakeholder you expected to be on your side isn't so much anymore, and maybe the system you know how to use works differently now. Well, whatever it is, it's okay. To advance doesn't mean feeling no friction, it means taking on friction you can manage, so you may go further. Or otherwise, give your pieces more influence. Okay, we covered 2 strategy frameworks, develop and advance. We discussed a storyline which overarches the TV show of business. Now let's talk about the episodes. Because it's one thing to have these frameworks in your mind, and it's another to execute them. There are generally 2 issues of execution to address. How can I leverage a good position, and how can I break down a good position into moves? We'll address conversion of a good position into a victory, and decomposing a big strategy into small parts at a high level. Now, I've had the problem so many times in chess of having an absolute advantage, more pieces, more space, and more piece influence, but I just couldn't finish the mission. I ended up losing all of my momentum, and it ended up being a worse victory or even a loss. And that's a real problem. Sometimes you have teams on fire, and your position is perfect, but you lose momentum. So the question is, how can you convert energy from potential to kinetic? And the key is to keep restricting risks until opportunity arises. In my chess journey, I learned very, very early that chess is a very patient and slow game. After you gain an advantage, the opponent still has the opportunity to force you to answer a few questions first. And although it looks like they have counterplay and can keep protecting their king, ultimately you do have the advantage. And there will come a time when they run out of counterplay. So how can you convert a good position to a victory? Be patient. The opponent will ask you questions such as, sales wanted to add this feature, or we have to modify a process. But look at these as formalities, not threats. When these questions are answered, what more does your opponent have? The last framework to talk about today answers the question, how can I put the strategy into my daily life? How can I take the high-level ideas of developing and advancing my pieces at a small scale? This is called decomposition. Oftentimes, early on in a game of chess, you haven't fully developed it, you can't advance your pieces yet, but there are many different ways to do that. How can I know which one's the right one? And really, it's as simple as asking two questions. Where am I now, and where do I want to be? Now these are simple questions, but they're hard ones. I mean, the whole field of root cause analysis, and Ishikawa diagrams, and SWOT analysis only cares about these two questions. But at the heart of these questions lies one simple solution. Raise the floor. What's your highest risk or least performing piece? Enable them. Is there a better place to put your rook? Is there something unaddressed within the team? Find the difference between where you are and where you want to be, and execute that difference. Well, we covered all four frameworks: develop, advance, convert, and decompose. And I hope you now have more of a strategist and tactician's mind around business. And if you can think of any other frameworks, please share them. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for hearing me out as I share my mind. Thanks for watching.